Good evening, everyone. My name is John Groh, Superintendent, School District of Spring Valley. I'm so glad you took a moment to join us tonight for our third and final referendum community meeting. Tonight's meeting is a little bit different than the first two. We're in the same location, but we're joining you virtually, or you're joining us virtually tonight. So we've got a couple of monitors here. I'm just going to go through how the evening will go tonight, and so you can better appreciate what's going to happen and also get the most out of this meeting. So first of all, in the room is myself. We have a couple of employees. Jenny Bokey, she's running the camera tonight. We're actually going to be doing a tour of the school later tonight, so we'll be moving around with the camera. We also have Christy Peavy here. She's checking email addresses for questions you might have. This may be a little hard to read from where you're at on the view, but we do have an email address that you can reach out to and send emails tonight. They'll go to Christy. Christy will relay them to me at various points in the meeting. And especially between the first presentation part and the tour, we'll stop and answer some questions you might have. Either way, if you don't get your question answered tonight by email, we will answer them over the next day or so and get back to you as soon as we can. So again, that email address, if you can't see it up here, it's info@springvalley.k12.wi.us. So info@springvalley.k12.wi.us. All right. So again, big day coming up, 7 days from now, 1 week. It'll be election day. There's a lot on the ballot besides the referendum questions. We have school board elections, state superintendent elections, and there's another referendum, statewide referendum question going on, among other things. But we're here tonight for the referendum for the school district. So there are 2 questions on the ballot, and we're going to go through some various slides tonight. The other people we have in the room are joining us virtually. So I'm going to be working off of this monitor. Jenny's going to pan over to the other monitor we have. We have 2 people joining us here. We have Debbie Burnett. Debbie, if you'd wave just a little bit so they know which. Debbie's on the left, at least right now, on this monitor. Debbie works for Baird Finance. Baird works with most of the districts in the state of Wisconsin when they go to referendum, and it helps them plan for the financing piece, the interest rates, and things of that nature when a referendum passes, if a referendum passes. And then we have Hans Knoll. Hans, if you don't mind waving there. Hans is joining us from Nexus Solutions. Nexus has been our district's planning partner since December of 2023. And we'll talk a little bit more about what Hans does, and they can introduce themselves a little bit as they take over. So to start off with tonight, we're going to go over to the monitor here and talk through some slides. After the slideshow is done, again, we'll go on the tour and we'll answer some questions. So tonight's agenda, one of the big focuses, if you can read that on your screen, is how we got here. Why are we going to referendum at this point? Number 2, we developed a 10-year facility plan. So this helps us set up plans for not only today, but in the future. And you may have remembered last fall you received a community survey. That survey information is really going to be helpful for us to develop our priorities and arranging all the different things that we have for facilities into a chronological order. Third is community engagement. That is perhaps the biggest thing I want to convey tonight in this informational meeting, is how much the community has been involved in this from the very beginning. Number 4, the question probably a lot of you are curious about is needs versus wants. What's in these 2 referendum questions? Is it just a bunch of stuff we want, or are they truly needs? So we'll talk through that a little bit. And then in 5, we will answer what's on the ballot. Both Hans and I are going to go through each of these slides. Debbie, at the very end of the slideshow, is going to talk about the financing piece and interest rates and where things are looking right now. All right, first thing, how did we get here? Nexus Solutions was hired by the school board in December of 2023. They competitively competed for this business with Market & Johnson and River Valley Architects. Those are the companies that we worked with to build the elementary school about 5 years ago. They did a nice job for us. That project came in $2 million under budget. That money went right back down to pay off that debt. We saved a lot of interest and saved a year and a half on the payments on that loan. So nothing wrong with Market & Johnson. So why did the board decide to make a change? Please reach out to board members and ask them personally. But being part of the process, one of the comments I heard over and over again from the board is they really liked how Nexus Solutions connects with the community. Remember back to April of 2023, the community had 2 referendum questions to decide on at that point. One was for operating funds, the other one was for a track and football facility. Neither of those referendums passed. There was community involvement in those, but not nearly to the level that we've taken it this time. So Nexus Solutions hangs their hat on developing good sound plans, sticking with budgets that they proposed, and also developing strong relationships with the community. That struck a chord with our school board, and that's why they've been our partner since 2023. So one of the things they did at the very beginning is they talked to staff. They came in and did a staff survey, asked every staff member to talk about their space, their workspace, what kind of temperature and air quality it had, the heat and the cooling system, the lighting quality, the acoustic, the sound quality. Because our teachers and staff work with kids every day. We want to have the best place, the healthiest place for people to work, and the best place for kids to learn in. So we got feedback directly from the experts that use the building all the time. The other thing that was done, Nexus, and Hans is an engineer for Nexus, he'll talk about this a little bit later. They came in and did a comprehensive review of every part of our district, all buildings. They didn't focus as much on the elementary school, because frankly, it's now going into its third year. It's in very, very good shape. But they did focus on the pool facility downtown, the bus garage downtown, our outdoor athletic fields, the high school and middle school was obviously a big focus. Their engineers went in and evaluated every single system that we've got, from our heating to our ventilation to our electrical, our mechanical systems, our fire alarm systems, you name it, it was evaluated and looked at. So they had engineers on site over the last 14, 15 months. They've been studying this. So the facility audit was done. Next, a community facility committee was established. And this was really exciting. I got to meet some new people in Spring Valley. This is my 4th year here. I've met a lot of people. It's a great community. I got to meet some new people, which is awesome. We had about 70 people express interest in being part of this committee. I would say about 5 or 6 were staff members. So the other 60 some were people just out in the community, people that were retired, people that are working, business owners, people that are business owners that don't live here but have a business here, and vice versa. So it was a really diverse group. We had 3 meetings. One was in September of last year, late September 2024. And that meeting, we had about 50, 55 people somewhere in there that took place right in this room. And one of the first things we did was we looked at and shared information about what the purpose of the facility committee was. We ended up talking through the second and the third meeting about our budget, our fund balances, how we manage funds, how much we spend on maintenance. We talked about priority needs that the audit discovered, that Nexus had done. We talked about different options moving forward. And the second meeting we had in October, and the third meeting was in December. And by the third meeting, the committee developed a recommendation for the school board. And the recommendation was really how the district should take all of this information and put it into an action plan. And so of all the different projects that were listed, that committee came up with a recommendation. I'll get to that in just a minute. Finally, a really important thing, and you notice the community's involved again in number 3. So we've got communities, mainly staff members. Here, 2, it's community members that were interested in serving, and 3, it's every household in the community was surveyed in October, of 2024. So everybody got a survey. We ended up getting 477 responses back. That's about 50 or 60 more than in 2023 when we did the same survey. That survey was done by an outside company. That company hangs their hat on predicting how communities will support projects or not. They have about a 95% success rate in predicting where communities are at. So we got some great feedback. I'm going to talk about that survey later on in the slide. But again, community involvement, especially from the staff, community involvement, spending 3 nights, probably about 6 hours of meetings here, and then finally the community survey. All that's come together to form these referendum questions, which you get a chance to vote on next week. All right, our 10-year facility plan. Hopefully you can read this where you're at. The first one is building infrastructure. So basically all the systems that allow this building to be heated and cooled, to be lit well, to be acoustically sound, to be healthy. So we're talking about building infrastructure. That was looked at. Technology systems were also looked at. As you know, technology is changing the way everything happens, and that includes education. Safety and security. I wish we didn't have to talk about safety and security in the school as much as we do, but it's a very important thing nowadays, and also accessible for people with disabilities. So making sure a building, which this building we're in right now is built in 1998, what has changed with laws and things, we want to make sure our building's up to standard so that all people coming into the building have access to it. This building is 27 plus years old. We're looking at interior finishes a lot. We always paint, we always maintain things like that, but after a while things get dated. They might even get worn out from having a lot of teenagers use the building for that many years. So we're looking at interior finishes, especially here at this building. Exterior. We're looking at the exterior site and also at the exterior envelope of our building. Do we have any tuck pointing or cracks that need to be fixed? Is there any concrete that needs to be adjusted? So we looked at that. And finally, educational adequacy. So basically what that means is, does our facility do the job we need it to do to educate our students? Is there anything that's happened in the last 27 years with education and how teachers work together, students work together, or what they need for materials that would allow us or require us to look at updating our system? So that was looked at as well. That's our 10-year facility plan. All of these ideas were put into a survey that you guys got to look at and participate in last October. And you were able to help us put these into priority lists. Here is the survey results. So they're listed in priority orders from the most supported. We didn't include all of the items because after this item here, the other items below didn't get nearly enough support. So these are the ones that got the most support. So these top priorities, when you see 76%, that's either strong interest or good interest in making sure these things get addressed. The number one thing that you guys in the community said, which is take care of the buildings you have now, take care of your mechanical and electrical systems. So it's not very exciting stuff, but it's super important stuff. And again, these are systems that were put in and designed in the mid-90s, have been in use for a long time here. Some of the designs were even kind of outdated designs back when they were installed in the late 90s. So it's time to upgrade those, and that's what the community said. Do that first. The second thing, the second most supported topic was the transportation building. Our bus barn downtown is a little over 60 years old. It's a block building. It's also put on right on County Road B. If you're not familiar with it, most of you probably are. It is not insulated. We just put a new roof on it last year because we want to maintain the things we have. But the building itself is so small. Our buses, we ordered more expensive buses. These buses are about 39.5 feet long. They're ordered a little bit smaller so that we can stack them end to end in double stacked buses. We can fit all 8 of our main route buses inside a building as long as they're double stacked. We've got a few feet on either side of the building and a little bit in between so bus drivers can walk between the buses and get in every morning. We keep the buses heated so kids can get into a fairly warm bus, and so can our drivers every morning. So again, we're student-centered and employee-centered here, decisions. Our bus barn barely works for us. The concrete floors need attention. The HVAC system is outdated. There needs to be some asphalt work around the outside. Frankly, the snow comes off and it dumps right in front of where the buses back out every morning. They're backing out onto a county road, which at times, luckily, haven't had any major issues that way, but that's a safety concern for pedestrians walking and also for our drivers. It's not ideal. Another problem we have with our current bus barn is we have no place to wash our buses. Why is that a big deal? A school bus right now costs $170,000 plus when you put a warranty on it for the buses we need. If we had a different bus facility, we could buy buses that are cheaper and actually have a little more capacity for our kids. We could get a bus for around $120,000 to $140,000. Right now we're at $170,000 to find buses that fit where we are at. What goes wrong with a bus? Buses, engines, and transmissions rarely have any issues. It's the body that has the problem. They rust out after time. So if we had an ability to wash buses and clean them and keep them clean, our buses would last longer. We could reduce that expense over time and put more money back into the classroom. So that's the desire with the new transportation building. We'll get to some questions later about where might that go or what might that look like. We were really waiting for the referendum results to see if that's where the community wants us to head. But according to the survey, that was the second most supported item. Third is the pool facility. Very interesting. So Syverson Pool downtown, it's been a staple for the community for a long, long time. It is the place to go in the summertime, as you all know. So as the community, you said, that's something you need to address. So what would that take care of? That would take care of putting in new electrical systems into the pool house. It would also take care of putting a new heating system into the pool house. Right now it is currently not heated. It would update some plumbing. We also have some chemical building and a boiler room building and a pump house. It would improve the ventilation where the chemicals are in that place. It would also talk about the concrete around the outside of the pool, which I believe was last done in the mid-'80s. The pool itself, a couple of years ago, the school board spent a good amount of money, about $60,000, $70,000 to have the pool resealed and all the cracks filled. So we're taking care of the pool. This would be all the things around it. And just a shout out, we also had in that project to redo the roof of the pool house and the two smaller buildings on the west side of the building. Larson Valley Construction, right here in downtown Spring Valley, came up, Dan Larson and Jeff came up and said, we want to do that for free. So if you see Jeff or Dan, they're planning on doing that, all materials and labor this spring, and they're going to take care of about $30,000 to $35,000 worth of work right off the top of this referendum list. So kudos to Spring Valley. Thanks so much. And by the way, any other businesses out there, people that have expertise areas, you feel like you would want to partner with the school district to reduce our costs and reduce the cost of the community, I will advertise the heck out of your generosity. So we'd love to have other businesses that have expertise in areas that we're looking at addressing partner with us. That's awesome. So thanks so much to Larson Valley Construction on that one. So that's the third most supported item. Then you get down to the last three. We have CTE, which is Career and Technical Education. Those are ag classes, welding classes. We have family consumer science classes. Those are the third most important, or fourth most supported topics. And what would that involve? That would involve upgrading those areas. On the tour, that's going to be one of the main areas you're going to see is our wood shop and our metal shop. There's some ventilation issues we have in those spaces. We also have a lack of space. So that would, the community really, that resonated with them. The last two are building exterior, so taking care of tuck pointing issues, concrete issues, water drainage issues that we might have over time. And then the last one is outdoor athletics. After that item, the support level really dropped off for the other projects, but outdoor athletics really is focusing on what we don't have right now, which are some updates we need for our middle school, high school, like gymnasium, scoreboards, some basketball controls, which you see downtown, freshening up the goalpost downtown. There's a batting cage that needs some attention, some bleachers around our baseball field, and also a track. We do not have a track. We have not had a track since the early to mid 1980s. It was a cinder track at that time. We're the only district of our size in the state of Wisconsin that does not have a track. And the community said that was in the top 6 items that need to be looked at. So if you take all those items, that community survey really pairs well with what the community facility committee came together with. Let's go to the next slide here. Whoops, excuse me. Okay. All right, moving on in the agenda, the community engagement. So we're going to talk today about 2 questions. Why 2 questions? Why did we go with the dollar amounts we went through, and then pursuing an April 2025 referendum? So this is what the community task force said. These are the things you should focus on. They listened to, like I said, 6 hours of information. They got to collaborate and talk with each other. We talked about what modern education looks like. They got tours of the buildings. They heard from experts of their maintenance department and our principals here at the schools. So this is what they came up with. 2 questions, needs versus wants. The first question, which we'll get into in just a minute, is really focused on needs for the district. Why bring them now? If we don't do those projects, we do not have an operating budget that can sustain and take care of those projects. Your tax money is your money. You do not want the school district to be levying more. Frankly, we can't. The state of Wisconsin caps what we can spend, so we couldn't do it even if we wanted to. But asking for more of your money to put it into account to pay off things when it's time is something we don't want. We want you having your money. When we need the money, we come to you and ask for permission, and that's why we're coming to a referendum with it. So question 1 is really about the needs. If it isn't passed next week, those needs will get larger, the costs will get larger, and we'll go into a mode of being reactive with problems that we have with our facilities instead of being proactive. So we'll wait till things break, which is what some people do in their own household. I've had different times in my life where I've had to wait because I don't have the funds. You may be in that same situation. Other people in the community might be looking at it different and saying, why would we want to wait to take care of projects that we know have reached their life expectancy? They're 27-year-old air conditioning units. Why would we want to wait? They're only supposed to last 15 years. So we've already on borrowed time with that. Some people in the community and enough people in the task force said, let's take care of these things now. The community survey also said the same thing. The second question, referendum question number 2, really deals with the athletic facilities, our gym, scoreboards, downtown, like I said, the baseball bleachers and things, and the track. Those, to me, and the community task force said, those are significant wants. They're not needs, they're significant wants. There was enough people at the last referendum in April 2023, 41% of the people said, we would support a $7.1 million large project. 59% said no. So this is really pulling back on the costs, and I'm going to get to that for number 2. Question number 2, this time is $3.35 million. 2 years ago, that same project with a lot bigger scope was $7.1 million. Today, that would be about a $9 million to $10 million project. So we're pulling back on the costs there. And then finally pursuing an April 2025 referendum, which is what the community task force said. And guess what? The school board listened to those recommendations and adopted them. So the school board wanted Nexus to connect with the community. Nexus and the school district have connected with the community in multiple ways. They've made a recommendation, the school board's listened. So really this is a community's plan here moving forward. All right. I am going to talk here, and then I'm going to turn over to Hans. What's in question 1? Hans will get more into question 2. Question 1, some of the main things are, and actually at this point, I think I'm going to turn it over to Hans if you're ready with slide number 8, Hans. So Hans is going to talk through question 1 and question 2, and then I'll come back a little bit to talk about the tax tolerance and talk about the tax impact, and then we'll turn it over to Debbie. Thank you, Hans.
You got it. How do I sound on your end?
I think you sound great. Hopefully people at home can hear you as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for introducing me. But before I get into it again, as John said, I was kind of the quarterback for Nexus, but I didn't do it all. We had about a dozen subject matter experts looking at everything from asphalt to roof, IT to HVAC. So as John had said, we went through a lot of survey process, your community task force, to determine what is actually in question 1. John talked about a lot of them. I'm going to repeat them here, but I'll go through them quickly. Updating the fire alarm, updating electrical work, adding a sprinkler system within the building, replacing some aging HVAC controls and cooling. Keep in mind the middle school, high school is 25 years old, and some folks might feel that it's a new building still, but it's reaching that point where a lot of this equipment, if it hasn't reached its end of life, it's approaching it. So we're looking to really just make prudent upgrades throughout the building. Going through, some of the ed adequacy stuff, I'll talk about that in a minute here, talking about updating the special education area, updating ventilation in the welding and wood shop, or the CTE, career and technical education area, mother's room update, converting group showers to individual showers. This is in the locker room, serving the gymnasium, modernizing the commons area. And then, of course, John talked about updating the transportation building, refurbishing some of the exterior doors within the building, and that site work. I want to step back just a brief moment. We talked about one of our tasks with Nexus Engineers was to come up with a 10-year plan. We interviewed a lot of the staff there, understanding what their heartburn items are, what the building didn't have that did not allow them to either teach or provide the curriculum they wanted to provide. Also, as part of the district strategic plan, the community and the district has also put together a couple initiatives. So number 1, in no particular order, really promoting and expanding the tech ed area. Obviously, a lot of people see growth in the manufacturing, in the trades business. So Spring Valley wants to promote that area. Right now, that area just is a smaller area. It was built, again, 25 years old. Career and tech ed within high schools, it looks a lot different than it did 25 years ago. Number two, the ag area. Again, this is a budding area, especially for the district. Right now, you don't have a true greenhouse; it's more of a solarium. So, as part of the strategic plan, really promote and grow that. Number three, the FACS, the family and consumer area. Also, some people traditionally call that home economics. Right now, the school district doesn't have that area. There's a old defunct room that there's an English classroom in, and we'll talk about what we're doing with that. But right now, there's not a FACS area. So it's probably a little tough to see on screen here, but area in blue are areas of proposed addition. Areas in orange are heavy remodel to address some of that need. So to start with, on the left side there, we would propose a ag and FACS addition along with some engineering or some drafting areas to work in association with expanded tech ed. What that allows us to do again is to expand that tech ed, provide some metals, some manufacturing area. We would bump the art across the hall, giving the art area much bigger space. Another thing that we'd like to do as part of that is to bring business over into this wing. Again, a lot of schools are integrating business right into the culinary, into the ag, into the woods. So when they make products, when they make food, we're able to include marketing, communications, and of course the business and the sales process. So that's shown here as we get kind of work around to the front of the plan here, updating the special education area, giving those folks, those students, dedicated restrooms, dedicated cool down areas that they don't currently have. And then we look up into the physical education area, the PE area, the athletics. You know, right now there's a need for additional locker room. There's a need for, right now, converting the group showers to individual lockers, adding some more PE storage. There's some talk about adding some additional wrestling mats in there, giving them some more area. And what that dominoes into is a new wing really focused on music, a particular band and choir. Those are expanding programs, and we want to support them. That said, this is a 10-year plan, and we quickly teased out that this is very expensive work to do, and it likely is not going to happen as part of this referendum. Again, we talked through this quite a bit with that community task force, and what we came up with, and you'll see in this graphic, is kind of putting some of that stuff off. That doesn't mean it can't happen in the future when money's available, whether it's more capital funds or a future referendum, but really focusing on that infrastructure stuff that we talked about. So, you know, the current plan, question number one, again, in gray, largely focused on the middle school, high school areas, is what John talked about, updating the HVAC, finishing off the LED lighting upgrades, improving the tech ed ventilation, both on the welding and the woods area, updating some plumbing, replacing that aging fire alarm system, adding a sprinkler system in there, and then doing some of that facade and site work. From a finishes perspective, updating and modernizing the commons area and that entry as you walk in. And then your remodels are really focused on in the tech ed area, getting rid of a wall there, opening up some space, making it more efficient and safer for John, the teacher there, to teach his classes. We talked about the special education area, again, implementing that, making improvements for those students and staff that greatly need it. As we look up in the athletic area, we would still include the individual shower bays update. Look to get a school store right in the heart of the school so that can function properly during after school events and during school. And then we look over by the music area, trying to provide a mother's room in an appropriate spot, right where the high school, middle school meet the elementary school. So it's a very strategic location to add that. Scrolling down, question 2. Again, this is really largely focused on the athletics and the pool area. I'm repeating a little bit what John had said earlier. I'll talk about the track on the next slide, but again, doing some minor TLC items to the downtown fields with updated batting cages, bleachers, painting the press box, updating those goalposts. Of course, at the pool, this is heavily used by the community. We want to update that infrastructure. Again, this is all prudent work. Updating the HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and when we talked about the roofing getting replaced on both the pump house and the locker room facility. And then at the middle school, high school, updating the scoreboards and the backboard control system. Well, here's obviously a picture of your pool house. Everybody knows and loves that. Focusing on the track, it's important to know, how does this differ from what was voted on 2 years ago in the 2023 referendum? Again, that was a full stadium project. We've pared this down, really focused on just the track and the track and field events. So what we're showing here is, again, is the base track. We would provide goalposts and some striping so that football can practice in here, but it's not the synthetic turf, it's the natural grass field. We do not have a grandstand with a press box included. We'd have a pad there for some portable bleachers. Again, we don't have a team changing rooms, and we don't have a concession area. With restrooms, what we provide here, again, as part of the pad is some location with porta pots. We do have the base track and field events, the discus and shot put throwing events, long jump, triple jump, and the pole vault pits. Again, we would likely be a gravel path out to this place. Again, what I want to impress, this is a base. This is modular so that when funds are available, again, whether it's community, businesses, whether fundraising, whether it's a future referendum, we can add that press box, we can add those bleachers, we can add lights, which are not part of this. We can add a scoreboard sound system, which are not part of this. We can add that add that concessions and restroom. If you can see it clearly, probably tough to see again. There's room and there's plan for future tennis courts, softball and baseball field. But again, nobody's suggesting that's going to happen in the next year, even 10 years. That's down the road, but we're planning for the future, and that's the whole thought behind both question 1 and question 2. John, you want to take over or pick me up on anything I might have missed?
No, I think you did a great job, Hans, summarizing it. Again, if people have questions, please go to info@springvalley.k12.wi.us. Christy's standing by, checking the emails, and we'll get to your questions in shortly. So Hans, thank you very much. Just a couple more slides and we'll turn it over to Debbie with Baird. What's on the referendum? So there's 2 questions. If you didn't know about it, you're just joining tonight for the first time, glad you're here. Question number 1 is for a general obligation bond in the amount not to exceed $9.8 million. And why that amount, we'll get to that in just a second. Question number 2, and we've already talked about what that scope would be. It's mainly the infrastructure and bus barn and making improvements here on this 27-plus-year-old building. Question 2 is a separate question for $3.35 million. That would take care of constructing a track at about $2.7 million and all the field events, and making upgrades to Syverson Pool. So they are separate questions. One could pass, the other could not. Neither could pass, or they both could pass. They are independent and separate questions. All right, the tax impact, very important part of the presentation. What is it going to cost? As you can see, we have this little infographic of a house with $9.58. That is the cost per month if both questions passed, per $100,000 in equalized value for your home. So if you have a $300,000 home, it's going to cost $30 a month if both referendum questions passed. $30 a month times 12 months is $360. So you can upscale your math based on how much your property is worth. So again, $9.58 per month if both questions pass. Kind of breaking it apart into the 2 questions themselves. Question 1, if it passes by itself, that would be a $7.08 per month cost per $100,000 of equalized value. That equates to $85 a year. So under $100 a year for question 1. Debbie's going to get into how long that is, but that would be for a 20-year term. Question 2 is $2.50 per month. So, or $30 per year per $100,000 of value. So again, take this amount and multiply it times how many hundreds of thousands of dollars of value your property is worth, and that'll get you a good estimate about where things are at. Okay? And I'm going to pause before we turn it over to Debbie, just real quick. how did we come up with the two different amounts? Why $9.8 million? And why was that set? Why not just put these into two different, or one referendum question? The main thing is we're listening to the community. The community in the community survey said we would support up to over half of the community members that took that survey said they would support up to a $10 million referendum. So you go over that, the support drops off to under 50%. And again, this is where School Perceptions, the survey company, comes into play. Remember, they're the ones that get things right 95% of the time. So we're asking the community for something under $10 million for question one. Why question one? Because it's the needs. It's the things that you said as a community through the survey, and the community task force studied it. These are the top things you said to take care of. Infrastructure, take care of the house you have, take care of the bus barn, take care of the pool. Question two is a significant want question. It goes past that $10 million threshold. Is there enough support out there for the community for that? Is this the right time to add that track for our kids for Phi-Ed, obviously our athletes for track, and the community obviously could use it for walking and exercise and things of that nature. Is it the right time? Is it the right time for us to join the rest of the districts in the state our size and have a track? That's up to you guys. But again, that's why there's two different dollar amounts there. Next, I'm going to turn over to Debbie Burnett from Baird, and she's going to talk through a few slides on interest rates and why our costs are what they are and where she thinks they might go moving forward.
Thank you, John. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So Hans will be advancing the slides for me, so I apologize if there are any delays between ours, but I wanted to start. Thank you for having me tonight. My goal tonight is to help the community know of the assumptions that were used in the estimates and to address some frequently asked questions that come up during the referendum communications. So the first, and Hans, if you'll advance just one click, please, is now still a good time to borrow? Oops. There we go. Thank you. One more, please, so that first arrow appears. Thank you. So if the referendum passes, the district will borrow in order to pay for the projects. And so this question is a logical question that comes up, and the answer is that we are borrowing today lower than we were 30 years ago. And for reference, in this 30-year period, which is what this bottom blue line represents, the district went to referendum 2 times in the 30-year period and passed. One was in 1996, and another time was in 2019. So back in 1996, the district would have borrowed at a rate higher than what we're estimating today. And in 2019, the district would have taken advantage of the pandemic low interest rates that existed then. So while we are higher than the pandemic, we still are borrowing lower than we were 30 years ago. One more click, Hans, if you would please. This upper right-hand visual helps show a 1-year snapshot of what our MMD has done, and this is reflective as of February 24th. We do have an updated version of this, but to keep the communications consistent between our referendum meetings, we wanted to ensure that it stayed. And the important part of this visual is that interest rates change daily. And so when we talk about the planning estimate that we used in the referendum financing plan as brought to you today, we're not using rates reflective of today, we're using a 5% estimate, so that as interest rates naturally fluctuate, as we know they do, it helps ensure that we come in at or better than targets come actual issuance. Next slide, please. One notable item in today's market, so this visual has that same blue line, that same 20-year MMD over the 30-year period. And we've layered over it the 2-year treasury rate, and that's representative of the common reinvestment rate. So the district as they borrow the funds, those funds will be deposited in a district account specific for the referendum, and they'll use those funds to pay the invoices that come in. Between the time in which the funds are received and the invoice is paid, they will earn interest. The pink boxes represent 5 periods of time over the last 30 years where the reinvestment rate was or is actually higher than the AAA MMD. And so it's important to know that if that trend continues, as it shows in this visual, and regardless of whether it's inverted like this, the district will earn interest on these funds as they are in the account. Those funds have to be used either toward referendum projects approved via the question, or to repay debt, or a combination of both. Next slide, please. So what we prepared for you is a more detailed summary of the estimated impacts. So John shared a slide just before he passed it to me, focusing on a $100,000 property, a monthly impact. This breaks out the referendum questions by question, 1, 2, and total, and shows the estimated mill rate impact per 1,000. Below, you'll see not only that $100,000 property estimate, but a $200,000 and $300,000 property estimate as well. So again, you can multiply. We know not every property will fit within this exact value, equalized or fair market value, but it provides a range for you and the ability then to multiply for your specific value. It is important that we highlight the assumptions that we've used for this estimate. The first is that we are using a 20-year amortization, which is the maximum amortization period for municipal debt for a single issue. And we're using a 5% interest rate. The one question that came up in the earlier meetings was the timing of the 20 years, when the 20 years starts. So the 20 years would start at issuance. The date of borrowing is not finalized. The funds could be in the account as early as July, and the 20 years would start from there. So we estimate borrowing in 25 regardless of the exact month, and so this plan extends out to the 2045 school year. We have based this on 0% property value growth. We know we anticipate the district will have property value growth within the 20 years, but to provide a more conservative estimate for the community in this, we have assumed 0. Growth beyond this would reduce this impact per 1,000. We have also factored in the state aid component. So here in Wisconsin, the state shares in spending for operations and debt. And in Spring Valley, the additional dollars you spend on debt creates more levy relief, state aid, but comes in levy offset the following year. So we used this year's aid percentage of 27% for the estimate. This is in line with recent history, historical years, and is factored into the mill rate estimates that you see. One other question, Hans, sorry, you were about ready to advance. There was one other question that came up during the earlier meetings. The first one was the timing of the 20 years. So the 20 years does not start at the conclusion of your existing, it starts at issuance. I already specified that. But another question that came up was the district's ability to prepay or refinance. And the answer to that is yes, the district, should it have levied funds available, could prepay or defease the debt. And yes, if interest rates come down, it can be refinanced. Thank you. Next slide.
All right, Debbie and Hans, thanks so much. There's a few questions I'm going to get to, and then as you
John, I think I'll pass it back to you.
yes. Oh, sorry, Debbie. Perfect. Yeah, I'll take it from here. Thanks so much, Debbie and Hans. I'm going to answer a few questions, and then we'll get on with our walking tour. And once we go on the walking tour, Hans and Debbie are going to step off the meeting. But if you have questions, again, go to info@springvalley.k12.wi.us. You can always call me here at school too, or stop by. I'd be glad to help you out in the next week or so if you need information. But reach out to them, and I can get a hold of them, and we can get you the answers you're looking for. Here are a couple of questions that I've received over the last few weeks as this referendum's drawing closer. A really important one. Why hasn't the district planned ahead to take care of all these projects included in the referendum? And I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but these projects go beyond the scope of our operating budget. The state of Wisconsin has revenue limits for all districts. Our district, there are 421 districts in the state. Our district a couple of years ago was 394th in ability to levy funds. We are quite a bit lower than most every district in the entire state. That's year over year over year over year over year. So that has a cumulative effect of having less ability to take care of projects like that. The other thing is, basically our operating budget is designed to take care of our primary needs, such as what is our biggest expense? It's employees, benefits, and wages. A school is made of people, and that's our number one expense. So keeping up and being competitive with our wages is something that's important. It's actually part of our strategic plan that the community identified in 2021. Another thing that's impacted our ability to pay for these projects ahead of time is in 2009, the legislature and governor at that time stopped putting increases for school districts and matching that to inflation. And so since 2009 to today, there is about a $3,000 gap per pupil, where if we would have kept up with inflation, we would have had about over $3,000 more per pupil. We have about 700 pupils. So what's $3,000 times 700? That's $2.1 million. So $2.1 million this year, the year before, the year before that, the year before that, all the way back to 2009. Obviously that number grows over time, but those are funds. If we had that money, we would have taken care of many of these things already. We don't have that ability. The state says this is all you can tax. So we are really hamstrung by those factors. And frankly, some of these projects, they're just very, very large projects. I had a great question from a community member last meeting, asked this similar type question, how come this wasn't planned? And I was just thinking about our new elementary school over there. If you go to the west side, a lot of you haven't been on the west side, kind of the county double C side, but there's a retaining wall that kind of goes up towards the hillside. And in the lower level, as you look out the window of those two classrooms, you see the retaining wall. And if you kind of look up, you get some daylight. Why is the retaining wall there? Because you need a second exit out of some of those rooms, and every room needs a window. So I'm thinking, okay, when is that retaining wall going to need to be replaced? It's made out of concrete. It was designed with drainage behind it. At some point, it's going to break. When is that going to be? All concrete cracks. Is that in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? When will the district need to be putting money towards that project? And why is that project more important than another? So basically my point is it's a large house. There's always things that are needing attention. And we've taken the time now to do a facility audit, listen to staff, and really do a deep dive and assess what is needed and what isn't. So that's one reason why we don't and haven't taken care of all these projects. I am proud to say we've taken care of nearly $2 million worth of projects in the last 2 years. Where'd that money come from? It came from proceeds from the 2016 to 2020 referendum, which you as a community passed. That was $800,000 a year for 4 years. That's $3.2 million on top of our pretty lean operating budget. Some of that money was saved from that time. We've used it in the last couple of years to remodel this space we're in and take care of other projects around the district. So we use the money we have wisely. We just don't have excess to do large projects. And when is the right time to maintain old buildings? To me, it's cheaper to do it earlier, and that's what the community task force and the survey said as well. One other question I received is, two quick questions. One is, it seems like referendums are quite common now. On this screen here is the Department of Public Instruction page. And if you want this link, I can certainly share it with you. It's on the internet. but just look up Wisconsin DPI upcoming referenda, and you can see it pops up here. And what it has is the last few cycles of referendums. We have the spring of 2024 referendum results, so that was 1 year ago. We have last fall's referendum results from last November, and then we have the upcoming referenda that are happening across the state. I'm just going to click on a couple of those. We'll take a look at the first one, and we're not going to look at every detail here. But these are the referendum questions that are happening this spring across the state of Wisconsin. And each line represents a different referendum question. And again, there's 421 districts in the state. There are 93 referendum questions on the ballot. And Spring Valley is here. I think we're at number 80. Here we are, number 80 and number 81 on this list of 93 referendum questions. There's where we show up. So that's this spring. Go back to last fall. We had 139 referendum questions across the state. Again, 421 districts. But last fall, there was 139 referendum questions. And then 1 year ago, we'll go to spring of 2024, there were 103 referendum questions. So my quick math is that's 300 referendum questions in the last year for the 421 districts. Why are all these districts doing this? Is every district or 300 some districts mismanaging their funds? I'd argue no. We don't have the funds in our operating budget to do this. The state limits it. We've decoupled it from inflation. And basically our way to take care of big projects, to take care of buildings or operations beyond the normal things we can handle, is to go to referendum and ask the voters. So we'd love it if the state did something different. That would be awesome. I'd be a big fan of that. But this is the system we have, and it's really important to get your feedback and talk about priorities. The last thing we'll talk about, and then we'll go on the tour, is the bus barn. Where would the bus barn be built if the community supports that? Question number one. We don't know exactly yet. We have some property here on our campus that it could be placed. We also have the downtown site that could probably be reworked and looked at. We also have some other properties we're looking at. So until there's actual funding for a project, we're not exploring it too much. But after next Monday or Tuesday night, and if the community says yes, we're going to get going on that right away and make those determinations. So at this point, we're going to go on a tour. I'll do a little bit of talking on the way. This tour is going to take about 15 minutes, but you're going to get in the nooks and crannies and see the different parts of the school. We'll go from there. And the last thing before I sign off from this part of the tour is this list here. This list really breaks down the two questions, what's involved. If you're curious, you're just a detailed person, and you want to know what is in question one and what is in question two, I will tell you. I will be glad to share with you. Please email me, give me a call. For instance, question number one is going to have the middle school, high school controls replacement, new controls, sensors, and wiring. That's across the whole building for our heating system, our cooling system. Another one is a new chilled water plant for the entire middle school, high school. So that would mean basically dehumidification for the entire building, which would allow us to control the temperature and have air conditioning across the whole building. That's in here. A new fire alarm system, replace the roof and sidewall exhaust fans. It's very detail oriented, and this is all based on a facility audit. So if you need more information, please reach out to me. I'd be glad to share these details with you. And at this point, we're going to go on a tour. We're going to start off walking down to our CTE space, and hopefully the camera works out okay. And so thanks so much, Hans and Debbie. Appreciate your time. Have a great night, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so we're leaving the library. We're going to head down to the wood shop area. And the thing you'll notice in the wood shop area, you may have noticed it on Hans's presentation, is a little yellow wall. And remember, yellow on that map was new construction. In this case, it happens to be deconstruction because we'd be removing a wall. The reason for removing it, there's not enough space. You'll see that when we get into the wood shop. It's very tight and space is constricted. Currently, we call it the clean classroom, isn't used nearly enough. And frankly, we could use the space for a wood shop. It would make it safer. Both our metal and our wood courses are very popular. We've got a great program, great teacher, and we want to make sure we have the space for the kids. So we're walking right now into our technology lab. And this is the clean space where the kids oftentimes do planning and things for their projects. But again, this space would be removing this wall right here, which you can see, and taking the wood shop in this space and making this all wood shop area. So why would we need more space in the wood shop? Come on in, let's take a look. All right, these classes have been very, very popular for the girls and the boys here at the middle school, high school. What do you notice about it? It's pretty full of stuff. One thing is you can see equipment. We have a chop saw, we've got a band saw, we've got a planer, we've got another band saw. The big areas too are table saws. If you have a shop at home, you know your table saw is kind of the center of your shop, most likely. It is in ours as well. The problem is if you rip a 4x8 sheet of plywood, you have to have kids stop their project and step out of the way. That's okay. It would be nice if we had a little bit more room so people could continue their projects and not have to stop what they're doing. The other thing you'll notice is we have wood in the building that's being stored. So we have wood over there by the roll-up door. We have wood here on the floor. We really don't have any interior storage for all these materials. If you work with wood, you know it needs to acclimate to the temperature. And unfortunately, our wood storage is cold storage outside, so wood has to be brought in so it acclimates so you can mill it, plane it, and glue it together for projects. We really don't have enough space. The final thing to notice about this area is looking up at the ceiling. You have all these tubes here connecting to our dust collector system and also our air filtration system. So the dust collecting system here, we had a community member take a tour a week ago or so, and they had installed these systems. And when he looked at it, he said, well, this is not going to work. And we're like, that's why this isn't working, because it wasn't designed to work. He said you have too many machines hooked up to this system. It's not designed to pull that much cubic feet and volume of air out. And so basically, the air quality gets dusty in here. That's not good for our teacher, who's in here all the time, and it's certainly not good for our kids, who aren't in here as much, but we want to keep our kids healthy and safe too. So it'd be updating these ventilation systems. We're going to step over next to our metal shop and take a look at that. And there's a common theme with our metal shop, and that is air quality. So our metal shop is much larger, which is great. So we have our lathes over here, we have a CNC machine, we have a metal worker, we have about 7 welding stations here. So welding is really one of the most popular things that our students do in this room, and frankly, it's one of the things that gets them the most ready for careers down the road in the future. Jimmy, if you want to step over here by one of the welding areas, I'm going to highlight the ventilation system. So if you want to just step right into one of the booths here. So you'll notice we have our welders set up, we have our welding station, and we have a vent hood. Okay, the vent hood is a very important part of any welding shop. If you're going to weld for a career, you want to have healthy, clean air. Our system, again, was designed in the mid-90s, and it was opened up in 1998. It really hasn't changed since then. And frankly, when you have all these welding booths full of students doing their projects, the exhaust system just doesn't do the job. So the smell goes out into the hallway. Unfortunately, the kids are having to breathe that in. Our shop teacher has told us he no longer does TIG welding on aluminum because aluminum gives off more fumes. It just isn't working for us. So this system needs to be updated and upgraded. And if you take a look at air quality too, we're going to walk up, just peek out this door. But one thing I want you to notice as Jenny gets closer here, look, we do our best job to clean here every day, but you'll notice there's some, looks like sawdust on top of this area, on top of this little rag storage area. And then peeking outside, I'm just going to reach down outside and pick this up. What is this? These are wood shavings. So where did they come from? They came from that dust collector system right over there. That dust collector system is original to the building. It does not, and as the gentleman that was on the tour told me, it wasn't designed to do the job it's supposed to do. So this kicks out dust everywhere. We use a lot of lumber from Schmidt Timber. Our students get to take rough lumber. The Schmidt Timber gives us a great deal on it. Our students plane it, and get it down to spec so they can build projects with it. And it leaves this everywhere, and this blows into doors. As soon as you open a door, it kind of comes in. So we want this to stop and end. It's just a mess for everybody, and it's not healthy. So those are just a couple of things in our metal shop that was updated in this referendum. Next, we're going to take a look next door at our HVAC, mechanical, and kind of electrical area and see some of the things that are going on in that space. One of the things I'm glad to say is you'll see some nice, they look like pretty new boilers that heat this middle school, high school. They were put in 2018. So what happened between 2016 and 2020? The community passed a referendum, $800,000 a year for 4 years. That money went to replace these boilers. These boilers are in great shape. Thank you so much, Spring Valley community, for staying on top of the maintenance there. I'm glad they're in great shape. They replaced the originals. But there's a lot of things in here that aren't original. For instance, the circulation pumps, they're original to the building. They would get updated and replaced. I'll highlight this hot water heater. This takes care of a lot of our bathrooms here, the high school, middle school. If you notice the date, it was installed in January of 2024. This was put in kind of an emergency situation by Josh Turner with Turner Plumbing. Why did it need to be put in quickly? Because it failed in the middle of a year. It was, I believe, original to the building, so it had far exceeded its life expectancy. But when things break, you have to take care of them. Unfortunately, it comes at a cost, and probably it's not the most efficient way to do projects is on an emergency basis. So we're going to walk around the rest of the space. Just highlight a couple of areas. This is our fire panel system. This system is the older system that was put in 1998. It doesn't talk very well to our new elementary school system. Our new fire panel system and fire alarm system has voice activated fire alarms. So literally there's a voice that comes on and says, "You are in a fire alarm, please evacuate the building. You are in a fire alarm, please evacuate the building." This one just has an audible code. Unfortunately, the wiring with this system doesn't communicate with that system very well. We've had technicians out here multiple times. We've replaced 3 of these panels. It's time to get both systems to talk to each other. That's a safety thing. It's expensive, and that's why it's in this referendum. So walking our way around, electrical panels are all working well. Not to dwell on the dust collecting system, but if you look down by this door, here's more of the pesky. These are our lighting control systems. Again, put in 1998. Len Johnson, who worked here for a long time as our maintenance director, had said that some of our lighting systems were kind of outdated for 1998 when they were installed, but that was what was put in the building. These would get updated and replaced. Just panning over here, Jenny, to our water softener. This is original to the building. So this was put in the late 90s. Been there quite a while. And that would get updated and replaced. We're going to duck through this back hallway. This hallway is kind of unremarkable, but there's one thing I'd like to draw your attention to. This is the way our food is brought into our high school, middle school. The kitchen's right behind the camera. This goes outside. So there's hand trucks that you can see them sitting here that bring food in every day. And during the winter time, we put a lot of salt down so people are safe and don't slip. That salt has an impact on not only the concrete but the door frames. This is the worst door frame in our school district. There aren't any that are this bad, but there are some that are getting there. You can see down on the bottom corner, it's rusting out. These door frames go down into the concrete. That door frame, I had a community member reach out to me and say, "How come you're not taking care of your building?" So I asked our maintenance people the same question. How come we're not painting this and staying on top of it? In the last 7 years, that's been wire brushed and painted 5 times, this area. It's failing to the point where just putting paint on it isn't going to work anymore. Again, that's the worst one because of the traffic it gets and the salt that it gets here every day. But that's one of the things that we take care of with our exterior envelope. We're going to just duck through our maintenance area. Again, you'll see another water heater. That is a hot water heater for our kitchen. That was replaced on it broke down and left us stranded, emergency basis. That was replaced in December of 2023. So just a couple of weeks before that one in there failed. So again, we replace things when we have to. It's more expensive to do that. instead of planning for it ahead of time. But we got it done thanks to Turner Plumbing for that. Next, it's going to be a little bit noisier, but we're going to walk into the gymnasium, and there may be some volleyball practice in there. The school's used all hours of the day, and so we have youth volleyball using it. But I want to show you a couple things in the gymnasium. As we enter, you'll see we have scoreboards, obviously. Scoreboards are original to the building. We've just had a repair person come in and work on those scoreboards in the last month. They are starting to fail, and it's time to replace and update those. Next. This isn't very exciting, but I think it's going to prove the point. This is how we raise and lower our basketball hoops. So we have got a great basketball program here. We also have a great from here and volleyball program. So these hoops have to go up and down, up and down, up and down multiple times a day. And this is how you do it. You take a key, you put it in. We're going to slide over, and Jenny's going to show you how this hoop will come down right in front of us. If you can see it, it's slowly lowering its way down. And I'm standing here for one hoop. We have, I believe, 8 hoops in the...
10.
We have 10 hoops, thank you, in our gym. Now I'm raising it back up, putting it back where it was. So, is it a big deal to put a key in and use a switch like that? No. I wouldn't want to do it every single day times 10 hoops, times the entire basketball season or FIAD season over and over and over again. Basically, the modern systems are, there's a computer keypad, you put hoops down, hoops up, you're basically saving time and energy for staff. We're going to walk down now to the locker rooms. Here's our volleyball team. Hi, volleyball team.
Hello.
Hi. So they're just wrapping up their practice. We're going to go into a locker room now and just check out the showers. These will be updated as you heard from Hans. Hello. How's it going? Good. So speaking of the basketball control, hoop controls, here's the other half of the hoops. You have to walk down to this end and handle it down here. If we get a new modern system, basically you'd have it in one place. All right, I'm just gonna make sure nobody's in here. Is anybody in here? Hello? Anybody in here? I think we're safe. All right. So we're heading into the boys' locker room. Peek around the corner, we're good. Hello? All right. We're gonna head into the shower area. Not the most exciting part of the tour, but basically school districts now, any school building built isn't built with showers like this. This is the way probably a lot of you remember your high school showers to be. Modern school design is to have individual showers. Why do that? Why waste the time or the money on that? Well, do we want kids to shower or not? I don't know about you, but showering next to my classmates wasn't a favorite part of my day. That's still true today. So individual showers, you either have a curtain or a door. There'd be 4 individual showers here. If there is more privacy, kids are more likely to use them, more likely to feel comfortable. They'll be cleaner and healthier. So in a way, it's a safety thing. It's definitely a hygiene thing and a smell thing going from it. So we're going to duck on out of the locker room space. We're going to walk by what would be a potential site of a school store. We're kind of nearing the end of the tour, just for those of you that are like, is this ever going to end? Yes, it will end. So hang in there, people. Almost done. So again, that's the boys' shower, girls' shower. The same thing would happen, which is right down here. So right here, this space is a classroom, a small classroom space. Open this door. Okay, this is not a full-size classroom, but it is used for small group space. Basically, the proposal will be to divide this in half. In this front half you see here, we'd have a glass window installed. This would be the school storefront. So it's connected right to the cafeteria. The school store would be run by students. They would do the product design, the product ordering, manage the account. They would be the salespeople for the store. So really talking about entrepreneurship and business management. That would help them. It would also help promote cardinal spirit. And that's something that the task force identified and community identified as well. We'll end back here in just a minute, but we are talking about updating the flooring in this space. A lot of this is original, but you will see miscolored tiles because we replace them as needed. We're going to walk down to the special education area, and we'll end up right back here in just a minute or two and complete the tour. So there are 3 doors on our right. These 3 classrooms, if referendum question number 1 was passed, will all become special education classrooms. Currently, this is an English classroom, and right down the hall to the left is a special education classroom. So they would switch spots so that all 3 of these rooms on the right-hand side would become classrooms for special education students and teachers. Coming into this room, this is the former Family Consumer Science room that was last used for that purpose back in the maybe 2008, 2009 area. So this room is much larger than a standard room, and basically the back half of the room is kind of wasted space. We do not have the luxury to waste 1 square foot in this school district. So this would be maximizing this space. It'd also be taking advantage of the plumbing that used to be here, because we would install individual private bathrooms for students to do self-care and hygiene, which is a need sometimes in personal care for some students. So that would be, we take advantage of that. And then we'd also have a corridor, a walkway between this room and the 2 rooms next to it, so that staff and students could travel back and forth, collaborate, and also the students, if they're dysregulated or need space away from the general student population, wouldn't have to go out in the hall to do that. So it's better for students. That's the way modern education is. Back in 1998, it was designed just for a different purpose. And so this is looking forward for the next generation. We'll just take a peek through these rooms and head back to the cafeteria. Again, this is a small group space. Our paraprofessionals also use this space as a home base. There's a concrete wall here that would obviously be removed, and we'll see what's on the other side of that in just a second. And then our final room over here is a really functional space right now for special education. This room serves us really, really well. So back in 1998, they nailed it. This room still works for what we need it to. It has an adjoining room right now. Again, from this wall going that way would be remodeled, and all 3 of these spaces would be joined together, which would really set us up for the future. We're going to walk now back down to the gathering place for this entire school, which is our commons and our cafeteria, and wrap things up. So again, looking ahead, take care of the building you have now. That's what the community sent through the survey. We will be looking at redoing the flooring in this area. The lockers were replaced just a couple of years ago. They needed to be replaced, they were done. The finishes really haven't been touched here since 1998, including this, as we call it, the triangle at school. If you've gone to school here, you know all about the triangle. This becomes a place where little kids during basketball games love to run and jump. It becomes a jungle gym and other things. But really, this is a gathering point for Spring Valley, right here. And so, don't know what the final plan or designs will look like, but basically this will become, we'd probably remove the center planter area, put some nice seating in here so the community, when they come for games or come to connect with each other for FFA or hunter safety or you name the event, they could have some soft seating where they could collaborate. Students could do the same thing in the middle of the day. We'd also consider maybe doing some countertop seating here so kids could have lunch and move over to this direction. So basically modernizing this area. And then same thing with the cafeteria here too. Lunch tables work great, nothing's gonna most likely change there. But looking at some different kind of seating, maybe wrapping the pillars in a different facade of some sort. Again, I'm not an architect and I'm not an interior designer, but that's some of the look to modernize this space, which gets used heavily during the day and then after hours, basically all year long. So, you have survived. You have made it through this whole meeting. Good for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Are there any questions, Christy, that popped up? You haven't seen any new ones? Great. Well, if you have any new questions, please let me know. There's 7 days till Election Day. Whatever your vote is, please vote. We want every person that is eligible to vote, so we have a good understanding what the community wants moving forward. All of this began with the community in mind, really going back to 2021 when there was a strategic plan put together, when we focused on outdoor facilities, when the community said focus on more opportunities for kids, pay your teachers well, take care of the things. I'm so proud of our district right now. Like I said earlier, we're the 394th funded district in the state. We're 76th with outcomes. So we're really far exceeding our revenue. We're doing really amazing things with what we have. We'd love your input, and the vote is the way to do that. So please vote on April 1st. We also have some school board elections that night, and other things are on the ballot too across the state. So thanks so much for your interest. Go Cardinals, and again, reach out if you have any questions. Have a great night. Thank you.